Good morning, colleagues, faculty, and special guests. My name is Doug Goodgen, and I'll be giving the intro on our group's project regarding sleep hygiene. I worked alongside a superb team listed here who will be speaking on different parts about our project. We like to call ourselves the Dream Team, and if you missed that one, don't be alarmed. There might be more where that came from. Having a sleep routine hardly seems routine for anybody nowadays. And many people underestimate the power of sleep that could significantly be improved with good sleep hygiene. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves, what exactly is sleep hygiene? Why do I need to be clean when I sleep? You see, hygiene can be expanded to many areas of our life, as it is defined as the conditions and routine conducive to promoting health and preventing disease. As today's technology riddles our day with distraction, comparison, and unprecedented power, especially for the upcoming generation, it's easy to forget that humans evolved over hundreds and thousands of years to require good quality sleep. Not only are early start times for school an issue for teenagers these days, but social pressures literally at the fingertips of many students, many of them ignoring or even fighting their sleepiness to stay awake and respond to those text messages or catch up on their social media. Now, I'd like to challenge you to reflect on your own sleep hygiene. How do you prioritize it? How has your hygiene evolved from different seasons in your life, from childhood and adolescence and adulthood? We thank you for participating in our talk and listening, and we hope you take something new away today. Next, Camille will talk about our idea.
As Doug mentioned, our group was very interested in the impact of sleep on people's physical and mental health. Previous iterations of this project have focused on the effect of sleep on adults and healthcare providers in particular. But while poor sleep is a problem faced by many, we wanted to focus our project and intervention towards teens, as they face unique challenges and stressors in modern society that contribute to and exacerbate difficulties sleeping. Consequences of not enough sleep include higher rates of mood disorders, increased tendency to engage in high-risk behaviors, decreased ability to focus, slower reaction times, and an increased risk of automotive accident, and poor academic performance. Therefore, there seem to be high stakes involved and a lot to gain from educating teens on ways to improve their sleep habits. From our extensive research and observations gleaned from interviews conducted with Glendale High School students, their parents, teachers, and administrators, we found that teens do not get adequate sleep for a myriad of reasons. Many of the students we interviewed cited technology use, including social media and streaming services, as large drivers of their poor sleep habits. Others brought up factors that are out of the scope of what we are able to address within the constraints of our intervention, including institutionalized early morning school start times and socioeconomic factors. And while many teens seem to be aware of such factors negatively affecting their sleep, they also stated that they did not have adequate access to information and resources about good sleep hygiene practices to be able to change their ways. Though we realized we would not be able to address and provide a solution to all of the problems contributing to students' inadequate sleep patterns, we believe that we could still step in to address change on an individual level and fill this gap of knowledge to educate students on better sleep hygiene practices that can have far-reaching effects on their physical and mental health.
Consideration of our topic was initially fueled by our interrogation of the aims laid forth by the Healthy People 2030 initiative, including delaying start times of secondary schools to 8:30 to foster better sleep hygiene and adequate sleep, and also the goal to increase the number of adolescents in America who get adequate sleep. Our group quickly realized that given the project's time constraints, it was impractical to address something as systemic as school start times, but it did lead us to investigate this topic, which we will address later in this talk. Instead, focusing on adolescent sleep habits, we learned that pediatricians recommend 8 to 10 hours of sleep per night in order to meet the physiological needs of adolescents. We also found that nationally there was a 7 out of 10 adolescent occurrence of short sleep duration. And from 2015 CDC data, we found that 69.9% of LA high schoolers suffer from short sleep duration, as well as 71% of California high schoolers, which is on par with national averages. We also found an incidence of poor sleep quality to be 56% of adolescents, including 61.3% of girls and 44.5% of boys. This is partly attributable to the teen sleep-wake cycle, which has a biological delay component to it, which makes it difficult for teens to fall asleep before 11 p.m. Additionally, sleep hygiene was significantly worse in girls. Short sleep duration, which can be defined as less than 7 hours nightly, was also correlated to high levels of overweight and obesity, school failure, and perceived lower socioeconomic status. Sleep deprivation of teens was also highly correlated to evening use of screens, cell phones, internet, and social media. Cell phones in teenagers' bedrooms has been shown to reduce sleep, negatively affect mental health, and lower academic performance. Education about the use of social media and sleep for teenagers needs to start early, as modifications in sleep and evening use of screens and parental involvement in setting bedtimes has been shown to increase teen sleep time. Our evidence also uncovered the many benefits of sleep, including benefits to the brain and brain development, increased attention, improved memory, promotion of analytical and creative thinking, and lower cortisol levels, which are correlated with decreased stress and healthier weights. Now I will be turning it over to Angela to talk about our intervention.
The goal of our intervention was to address the problem and offer solutions that would mitigate the need of our target population. So our primary target population were students from Glendale High School, located in SPA 2, San Fernando Valley. Our team conducted a needs assessment after interviewing students and parents of Glendale High School, from which we learned that the students are, for the most part, unaware of the consequences of poor sleep due to the lack of access to information and resources when it comes to sleep hygiene. As my team members have mentioned earlier, the main modifiable factor influencing sleep habits that we wanted to focus on changing in our target population was the use of social media or screen time before bed. We decided to educate students on sleep hygiene and share useful and applicable tips which they could carry on with them even after the intervention period, and highlight tools students could easily find and use to improve their quality and quantity of sleep. To conduct this intervention, we partnered with Mr. Livingston, a journalism and ASB teacher at Glendale High School, and 4 members of our group met with 37 students from 2 of the journalism classes. The students were instructed to complete a pre-survey, which was promptly followed by a video and presentation with content that included evidence-based sleep hygiene information in order to expand on their pre-existing knowledge of good sleep habits. And during the presentation, our team members asked questions to facilitate their participation. We also demonstrated phone apps that could be utilized to aid with sleep hygiene and asked them to implement some of the habits over the next 1 to 2 weeks. And a post-survey was administered 1 week later to gauge how effective the intervention was.
During our pre-test survey, we had 37 students respond. However, for our post-survey, only 33 students responded. Due to scheduling conflicts, we were unable to deliver the post-survey in person, and therefore it was Mr. Livingston who placed the link on the class website, and we only had 33 responses. While it would have been best for the data to receive all 37 responses, we are pleased that we did get 33 responses. One of our objectives was for the students to be able to recognize the negative health outcomes related to inadequate sleep. During our pre-test, 33 students were already aware of the negative effects of inadequate sleep. After implementing our intervention, all but 1 student responded correctly in the post-survey. Objective met. Another one of our objectives was for the students to identify the adequate amount of sleep an individual their age needs per night. During the pre-test, the 2 main responses were between 7 and 8 hours and 9 to 10 hours of sleep. What we did find interesting was that while those were the 2 main responses, looking at the top right image with question 2, you can see that very few students come close to getting that amount of sleep each night. For the post-survey, 7 more students responded correctly to question 1. However, looking at the bottom right figure, the most encouraging factor is that we can see that after implementing our intervention, the students were getting more hours of sleep than before. While we would have liked more students to respond correctly to question 1, we are happy that the students were implementing what they learned and getting more sleep. Next, we wanted to assess how likely students were to continue making these changes beyond 1 week. Initially, close to half the students were interested in improving their sleep habits, which we found to be encouraging. After we implemented our intervention, we can see a dramatic increase in their desire to improve their sleep habits. This is very encouraging as it showed our intervention motivated more students to implement healthy sleep practices. Our last objective was for the students to be able to recognize behavioral changes that they could implement to improve their sleep. As you can see from the pre and post-test survey, there was not a dramatic change in response. This tells us that we did not do an adequate job at addressing this topic in our intervention, and that future studies could improve where we failed.
We designed our intervention to grab the attention of high school students by presenting YouTube videos that can be accessed at any time from any location. The information was visually pleasing in hopes that our audience would become invested in the material. We also used the SMOG method to ensure that the information was presented at a 6th grade reading level, and we limited the volume of text presented by replacing it with graphics and visuals. We accounted for the diversity of our high school population, including culture, religion, and socioeconomic status. We recognized the possibility of financial constraints and made the material accessible to everyone. In doing so, we provided an opportunity for each individual to obtain the information and improve upon their health, regardless of socioeconomic status. We also prioritized the use of evidence-based medicine by pulling information from peer-reviewed journals. We recognize the role trauma may play in our target population and focus on incorporating trust, transparency, and peer support. We also encourage collaboration to empower our audience to actively participate in decision-making. We wanted to advocate for the well-being of high school students. We encourage them to improve upon their sleep hygiene in order to improve classroom productivity and overall health. Lastly, we took this opportunity to promote the PA profession as well as interdisciplinary practice.
And now to explore aspects of our project and intervention that went well and what we wish we could improve on, we have our star wish. Our first star is that Mr. Livingston, the teacher that we worked with, was very eager to help with our intervention. He was flexible with his schedule so that we could come and present to 2 of his English classes, and he was helpful with distributing students their permission slips and providing us with hard copies. On the day of our intervention, he was engaged with our presentation, and he was a great community partner and seems eager to help with future interventions. Our second star is that the students in each class were more engaged than we originally anticipated. They freely provided input and opinions regarding why their sleep hygiene wasn't the best, and they were willing to make changes because of this. And based on their post-test feedback, most of them did try to improve their sleep hygiene and saw positive results. And finally, our wish is that with planning our intervention, we did face difficulty finding a time that lined up with our class schedules as well as Mr. Livingston's schedule. And had we been able to present to more classes, we could have obtained more data from a larger sample size. We also would have preferred to postpone our post-test survey since data shows it does take 21 days to form a habit. However, with the timing of our intervention, this was not possible.
For our call to action, we reached out to State Senator Anthony Portantino's office. Thank you, Ms. Maldonado, for the recommendation. And we found out that in 2019, California legislature approved the School Start Time Bill, SB 328. The bill required that California middle schools and high schools start no earlier than 8:30 a.m., and this is planned to take effect as of July 1st, 2022. This was based on recommendations from the American Academy of Pediatrics to improve teenage public health, since studies showed that insufficient sleep in teenage adolescents poses a public health risk and has adverse effects on academic success. Studies done on school districts that have already implemented these later start times showed that test scores, GPAs, attendance rates, and graduation rates increased, while rates of depression, obesity, drug use, car accidents, and sports injuries decreased. The American Medical Association is also encouraging physicians to actively educate the community on the importance of sleep for adolescents. So I'm happy our group took a step in the right direction in supporting the education of this population on the importance of sleep hygiene.